Good morning. First, I would like to extend to all of you a warm and heartfelt greetings from the Free Methodist Church in Mexico City, and from Pastor Hector and his family, and from Gary and Jan Allen, who are our Free Methodist missionaries there living and serving in Mexico City. Secondly, I would like to thank this congregation and the congregations of the Through the Roof Church in Flinton, of St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church in Trenton, of the Met in Ottawa, and of the Cobourg Pentecostal Church for your support, both financial and prayerful. We cannot do what we do on a missions trip unless there's a whole lot of you back here supporting and praying for us. So thank you. Visa Mexico City 214. Well, what a busy week we had, but what a fantastic week we had. While we were there, we had the opportunity to minister at 5 different churches or communities and at a high school. Now, for those of you, there we are. Now, for those of you here today who have not heard a Mexico City presentation before, I would just like to quickly give you folks a few details. The city has a population of over 20 million people. It sits on a plateau at just over 7,000 feet above sea level, and the dominant religion of the country is Roman Catholicism. And the Protestant church is viewed as a cult. And so it is a difficult mission field. When people there turn away from their Catholic faith, they may well be ostracized by their family and friends. A verse that I would like to share with you today, one that I feel fits the theme for our 10 days there, and for this morning, is found in Romans 12, verse 13. Share with God's people who are in need. And from the New Living Translation, which I like, when God's people are in need, be ready to help them. Well, you've seen some of the things that we did and some of the places that we went on the video, and so now I'm just going to ask the team to come and to share from their experiences and to tell you how God allowed each one of them to share with God's people who were in need.
Never without a mother. So this was my 4th time being in Mexico City. Every time I go, I don't want to come back, mostly because of the weather. It's really nice and warm. It's a good time to go. But I've made a lot of good friends down there. We see the same people, the same kids year after year, and it's nice to see them grow up and experience our lives in continuity with them. So I've been tasked with talking about Tarascos. It's a little community of people that moved into the city not long ago. They're a tribal group. I'm not sure how far out of the city they were, but any of the children under 4 don't speak Spanish. They speak some tribal tongue. So it wasn't too bad to communicate because we weren't there very long. And we just played games with them. Holly did a story. Through the whole week, we did a superhero theme, and talked about the comparison of God being our superhero, and talked about the kids' favorite superheroes, and did the comparison that way. This was one of our first days once we were in Mexico, and so we were just still getting used to the climate and the dust and all that. But it was a very positive experience. We'd never been with this group before, and it was nice to see a new group of kids. It was nice to see that the church there is still growing. They're still finding new ways that they can reach out in their own community. It wasn't very far away from the church where we stayed. Probably took half an hour, but it was probably just around the corner. The traffic's terrible there. So it was nice to see Pastor Hector and his wife and his family reach out to this church. During the week we were there, I think it was the following Saturday, Pastor went and picked them up and brought the kids back, which was a big step for that community to let their kids go to someone else's home. And the chief of the tribe and then the parents, they were okay with it. I don't think any of their parents came with them. They just sent their children off, and they were fine with that. And so the kids came back for another day, and we ministered to them again, did more teaching and more games. And it was nice to see that will continue to grow. It was something that started while we were there, and it's going to continue to grow, and hopefully we'll see it next time we go back. Looking ahead to the future, I definitely want to go back. I love Mexico, so I'll push Betty to keep doing more trips, and hopefully we can go back next year. Thank you all for your support. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. I can't wait to go back. Thanks so much.
So this was my first time going to Mexico. We went to Apizaco that Saturday night, so that was just the second day we were there. So we were still getting used to everything. We went to a church that I guess the team put on a roof last year, so it was actually like a legit building. But it's really small. It's just this one room. We did a kids program in there, but there wasn't enough room, so Betty did a ladies program outside. It was really squished. Like we had like half the room was just like crafts, and the other half room we had like puppet stage and like all the games we were doing and stuff. So yeah, we did that for, I don't know, 20 kids, 15, 20 kids. And then after we did crafts and everything, our superhero theme, me and Lee did a nice little superhero skit too. And then, so after that, me, Rachel, and a couple other leaders, we went out on the dirt road and played soccer with everyone, which was really fun. Most of the places we went, we gave them a soccer ball to play with, so they all really enjoyed that. Yeah, so it was just good to, like, just see the different things in Mexico that you don't see here, and the kids are just, like, not like the kids here. Like, they're just so, like, just happy, and they have hardly nothing. And so it just, like, really gives you a change of heart for sure. Yeah, so we just played games out on the road. It was a 2-hour drive with Pastor Hector driving, so if any of us were driving, it was like 4 hours. It was like down hills and like everyone was getting sick, but we all made it okay. But yeah, it was a good experience. I want to go back as soon as I can, for longer hopefully. And yeah, thank you all for your support. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Gabby. I have been asked to speak on Coacalco, which is a tongue twister. Now, the church there is run by Pastor Jose Carlos and his wife Karen, and they came to Mexico from Guatemala as missionaries. They have 2 teenage boys, 16 and 18. Currently, they're planting the church in Coacalco and have successfully planted another church in Mexico. Now, Karen spent a year in Seattle as an exchange student, and this is where she learned English, as the family there spoke to her only in English. And at present, the church meets at a party facility which is owned by a Christian, and they charge them very, very reasonable rate. Now, while we were there, Betty did her spiel with the ladies, and we had time with the kids there, and it was amazing. And I'm dying to go back, and my heart is there.
Joyce isn't here? Okay. Oh, there she is. Hi, Joyce. While we were in Mexico, Joyce and I both had the opportunity to preach. So I preached at, what's the name of the church again? Coapa. And so I'm not really an experienced preacher, but it was good. I talked about the call of Moses, and well, it was different speaking through a translator. Sometimes it was nice because I could collect my thoughts, but the poor guy, sometimes I'd get going and and he would try and translate, but he did a great job, and it was a really good experience, and just being able to worship with the people there and to minister to them in a brand new way for myself was really fantastic. So
I'm afraid I need notes too, Gabby. I think the most intriguing thing that I found was when I got off the plane, I saw tin shacks, but they had TV satellites on the roof. And then the necessity of wireless communication, they all had fancy phones. And I don't have a fancy phone. You know, I just thought, isn't this interesting? It's a different world. The dogs are kept on their roofs. You're walking down the street and you hear bark, 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 and you look up and you think, where's that coming from? And the dog's looking over, protecting them, and that's why they have them, to warn them that somebody might. Water tanks are on the roofs, and one night I thought it was raining, but ours was leaking. The most fun I think I had were the van rides. Huge speed bumps that I think are 5 feet high. They have to be. The curbs, I almost had to crawl up them. I kid you not. They're very high. I had fun being a clown. I really did. But Gabby and I had quite the taxi ride. Where is she? Quite the taxi ride to Walmart. We had to go and see Walmart. I think that we were told to come out of our comfort zone. And being a clown wasn't too bad at all. But the worst, I had to hold balloons while the kids poked holes in them and they blew up, and I hate balloons. But they were learning their memory verse. I think one of the most heart-wrenching things was Angelina that I met, 38-year-old lady. She's a she's an insulin-dependent diabetic, has no check, no way to check her sugar. She goes once a month to a clinic, gets her blood checked. And I noticed her sitting there, and I thought she was sitting on her leg. But she wasn't. She had a grand cell carcinoma, and 8 years ago she had to have, I think it's an above the knee, or it might have been below the knee, I didn't want to look too closely, amputation. She's been on crutches for 8 years. She doesn't have a prosthesis. And I said to the missionary, why hasn't she got a leg? In Canada, people that are subsidized would have it by now, and it would be fitted. So I'm trying to make that my little pet project till I go back next year. My heart just broke when I saw that she wasn't complaining. They had to bring her up to talk to me. But being a nurse, I just thought, why hasn't she got a leg? She's on crutches for 8 years. Now her other knee's starting to give out because of the crutches. And I think the one thing that tore me really to pieces was watching thousands and thousands of people walk up to 60 miles into Mexico City. And what they were doing was, it was the celebration of their patron saint. And you'd see some of them with like branches and crowns of thorns in their head. Some were pushing strollers. Some were on horseback. And they had trucks as they went along, all decorated, they could rest. And all they do is go into the house of Mary and stay overnight and have to go home again. And it's not that hard to know the Lord Jesus. But the people that do know the Lord Jesus, that they were just mentioning, they're turned out by their family. And I think the most humbling thing, I'm certainly no preacher. And I spoke to them about the Lord's Prayer and just kind of dissected it a little bit and what that pattern is meant for us, but it doesn't have to be what we say all the time. It's a pattern for us to mold to and follow. And they pay attention to everything you say about the scriptures. They're so sincere, and so are the thousands, but the thousands are sincerely wrong, and that's what really bothered me. But they did want to learn everything you could tell them about God, and there was a couple there that have been denounced by their family for naming Christ as Lord and Savior. And then he lost his job because he wouldn't do something dishonest. And he's doing the Sunday school, the quarterly, like he was doing the lesson for the adults, and he was teaching on tithing and how important it was that we put God first. And I thought, boy, we have an awful lot to learn. We begrudge every nickel sometimes, but there he was, he didn't know where the next dime was maybe coming from. He was a little bit late because he'd got work that day. But he's teaching on tithing and how important it is that we have to put God first in their lives. They taught us so much. Their worship, their fellowship meant more than a spotless kitchen, right, Gabby? Their gratitude for anything that you did for them or their children was overwhelming, and they came out to see. I really respect them. They're good parents. And then they trusted you to carry on teaching their kids. They're honest, hardworking people, but they have sacrificed so much for their faith. We have no idea how much they've sacrificed. They've been denounced. And then yet they can stand up and say, we need to tithe. We need to honor the Lord first. It's a life-changing experience. I want to go back. And I did, at the end, I was ready to come home, but something inside me kind of wanted to stay because I wanted to do a little more if I could. But the most interesting part for me personally was that I've really been looking for work just to balance my income. I didn't want to have to sell my condo. and I had had an application out. I didn't think I'd get it, but do you know when I came home, I'd got the job. I got the hours I wanted, and it's actually at the place where my mother lives, and it's working out very well. I can't give God enough glory for what he did in my life, and because I made the sacrifice, what he did for me after. I don't believe in prosperity gospel at all, but I do believe God honors a sacrifice.
I'm going to share with you about the opportunity I had to do some leadership training, and then Teresa's going to come and we're going to share a little bit more about some of the children's ministry that we had the opportunity to do. So this was my 6th time going, and every time is a little bit different, and it's always neat to see how a group of completely different people come together and just, I've yet to see a team who hasn't gelled. And for however, we just gel together. Everybody finds their spot that's kind of their thing, and maybe even it's not their thing, but they're still willing to jump in. I said to the men, I'm like, where are you guys to help me do crafts in Canada? We've got glue guns out, and we've got people cutting and tying on capes, and so it's just great to see everybody getting involved however they can. And so with the teacher training, this time I did 2 different sessions. And so the first time I was able to kind of do a workshop that came out of the Children's Pastors Conference that I attended earlier in January. And so we went through an apologetics course for kids, and 8 things that kids really kind of need to know, and not just know, but experience, to prevent them from walking away from faith. And we were having the conversation about the fact that there is an epidemic in North America of our young people going to post-secondary education and walking away from faith. And in Mexico, they were saying it's not an epidemic because people don't really have that faith to begin with. And children's ministry is not something that's a priority. And so to just kind of be able to invest in some people that have some heart and interest in kids, and to explain why this actually is important, was really a privilege. And then the second time we met together, we just kind of did some practical, here are some storytelling ideas, things that you can do with the kids that are interactive. And again, you can tell it's a little bit out of their comfort zone to be getting up and being. The Mexicans are a very reserved people group, and so to be up and moving around and doing drama and things like that, a little bit out of their comfort zone, but willing to laugh at themselves and to have fun doing it. And then I like the part that things just get caught, right? It's not always just about being taught. And this trip was really nice to be able to work right alongside Pastor Hector especially. He was involved in all of our kids' programs, I think, this time. And I think it was nice that the construction projects were what they were, because he could kind of let the men go do their thing, they could work, and he was free to be with us. And so he did some of the translating for us. And the one day, for those of you who have not seen it, I have an EvangeCube, and it's a box about this big, and you flip it in different directions, and on it has pictures of basically the gospel message. And so I used that box in each of the different programs that we did. And so the one day, as Luke and Rachel and Hannah are going to come next to share about, we were going to the high school to speak. And we went from 7 until 9 in the morning, and then we had to get back for kids program for 10 o'clock. Well, in Mexico, that's a very tight time frame to be on. And as it was, I don't think we got back till about 10:30. So Pastor Hector said, what are you going to do if you don't get back? And I said, well, you can do the message of the box. No, it's too tricky. I can't do it. And he watched me do it about 3 times already. And I said, there's a secret. It's not that tricky. There's numbers with arrows on the box. You just follow them. So I said, you try it. So he got the group of kids around him where we were, and he said, let me practice. So he gets out the box, and he starts telling the kids and reviewing with them what they had already learned in the lesson. So the next day, we made it back from the school, and I said, here, you take the box, you teach the kids. And so it was really neat to see him then just say, sure, yeah, I'll do it. And he took it, and he did the story. And so I left him with my box. I need to order another one, and I'd like to actually be able to send some more down to some of the other locations where we were ministering to. But that was really neat to just kind of walk alongside him as he gives leadership to the church down there as well. And as well, I think the thing that stood out to me this time is each location that we go to is very different. They mentioned that the next day we were there, Luke mentioned to the Tarasco group. What he didn't mention was we get out of the van. These people work and they live in tents, they build furniture, and where we had our kids program was on the sidewalk. And so we're literally hanging up our puppet stage to 2 trees. Kids are watching the puppets, and there are people walking between the puppet stage and the kids while we're doing our program. Like, we're literally on the street. There's a picture that I have. Luke is doing crafts with the kids on the hood of the van that we had rented for the day to drive there. They didn't have a table even to work on, but it was church, right? The next day, we went to Apizaco, little tiny building with these very rustic little benches. Last year didn't even have a roof on it. But God was there. It was church. The place that we're based out of in Mexico City is really a nice facility. It's a beautiful building, stained glass cross on the window. God is there. It's church. And where we went to in the park, they basically are under a canopy. But again, God is there. And so it's just really neat to see all of the different places that God is. And to be able to, ministry looks so different in so many ways, but God is there. And so I'm going to invite Teresa to come, and she's going to share some of her thoughts on children's ministry. Well, you come on.
Oh, well. I do want to say something. Last year when I was going to go to Mexico, there was no way I was going. And I had quite a little discussion with God, quite a bit in every area. And then I went, and everything fell in place. This year, I was definitely not going. There was no discussion with God. Absolutely, I was not going. And I was very sick before the trip, so I thought, well, this is it. I'm really not going. Of course, Betty said she was going to start praying, which I knew that she would win out, and I would be going. But at the very end, I wasn't going, and so I figured that maybe it was the devil telling me something or whatever, but I actually did go. And this year, I never got lost in a cab, which was quite pleasant for me. And another thing that I found that it's the kids are warming and loving, but the women are too. Like, our culture doesn't go up and kiss a woman on each cheek and say hi, like these women do, and they don't have hardly any food, and we always got a meal, and they just kiss you, and I think that warmed me up. And the kids are really sweet and everything. Not all of them are sweet now, I must admit. Some of them are normal children, I found. And one thing, I've never known anyone that can drive a vehicle without gas. And this is the pastor. I'm sure we flew to everywhere we went, because I was sure he never used gas, because we flew everywhere. And I mean literally.
You saw in the video Pastor Hector on his horse. He was raised on the farm. They didn't drive anywhere. Everywhere they went was on horseback. And you could see his need for speed on the back of that horse, and he had it while he was driving too. So Hannah, Rachel, and Luke are going to come and share about their experience at high school for the day.
Okay, so We went back to high school, which was really nice. Just for the morning, we had to leave at like 6:30, which was hard, but so we went. Took us a while to it was a huge school, and took us a while to find where the classroom was. David, who I guess he lives there, and he's always helped out with the trip every year or whatever. So his mom is a grade 12 teacher, 11 or 12. Yeah. And so she asked us to come speak. We spoke about respect because we weren't allowed to talk about God in the school. So yeah, it was actually really fun. It was nice because the kids could kind of talk a bit of English, which really helped us because I cannot talk Spanish. So with the children, I was just waving at them the whole time. But the kids, they actually helped me out and could talk some English. So it was nice to actually talk to them about stuff. So yeah, we each had different talks. I'll do my talk first. Holly had this demonstration, so it was just a toothpaste. And I got a volunteer to come up, and they squeezed out the toothpaste, and then I asked them to put the toothpaste back in the tube, but you obviously can't. And then we just talked about your actions and your and the things you say, you can never take them back. So just think of that and that kind of thing. So I did that.
And then Rachel and I talked about respect. Rachel found the ABCs of respect, which in English it's the ABCs. Spanish it's CES or something. So they got it. So I don't remember what they were, but they we just kind of talked to the kids about kind of more an applicable sense of, they squeeze the toothpaste out, so you can't take anything back. But then we talk about ways that you can try and combat people's disrespect towards you. So if someone says something mean to you, maybe you want to hurt them, but you try and think of other ways you can handle that. Do you remember what they were? ABCs?
Awareness, being aware that you deserve respect and that other people deserve respect as well. Balance, mutual respect, and I don't remember C.
Oops. All had to do with respect.
Yes. But it was good. And then after, Hannah and Holly had to go back for the kids program, so we stayed to do it again with another class. But when we did it, we had to wait an hour in the library, and poor kid was trying to write his exam, but he did well. Anyway, yeah. And so I don't speak Spanish, and I'm not very good at understanding Spanish. And then all of a sudden, Porfiria, the teacher, she's talking, and I hear the word microphone, and I'm like, oh no, they're going to give us a microphone. And they did, and they brought us into this auditorium with not just 30 students, maybe double?
Maybe 90 with teachers.
90.
There's a lot of people.
And principals and microphones. And it was really nerve-wracking. But we did it, and we did a great job. And it was so great just to be with the kids and to talk with them. And played soccer, and I scored a goal.
On our net.
Oh, the principal.
Yeah.
What happened there again? Oh,
Holly.
So what I was impressed by when these guys came back and said that Hannah and I were just holding them back and that they rocked it without us, was they had a time where they could ask questions. And so the one teacher went to ask, and this really impressed on Porfiria because she came that night then to our teacher training session, and she was bringing this up too. One of the teachers, Stephen Harper, was in Mexico while we were there. And so one of the teachers was asking about our prime minister, but the principal didn't understand where she was going with her question and thought she was talking about the ministry that we were doing down here. And he cut her off because he didn't want there to be any ministry, any God, any religious component to this. And so, again, that was, they picked up very quickly on who we were and why we were in the school. And though we were being very respectful. in terms of the boundaries that we were sharing in, the principal was very quick to cut her off and make sure that that question didn't get answered, and that teacher did come and apologize to you guys afterwards. Misunderstanding, but again, just an insight into the dynamics of what's taking place in Mexico City. So I just thought that was an important one.
So we also talked to the kids about the differences between Mexico and Canada, and it was always, about sports or the weather, things like that, which was nice, and we just had more of a big discussion about the differences. They got to ask us some questions about where we came from, but we also tied it in to say, just because we're from Canada and you're from Mexico, there is no difference between who needs respect, everyone needs love, and all that kind of thing. And so we were able to tie it in that way, and it was different than speaking to the kids, which was kind of nice, where we really enjoyed this because, they were on our level. We could have some good conversations with them, and they were very, very open to it, which was very good to see. So that's all we got. Sure.
First off, I'd like to thank my church for giving us the opportunity to be on this mission. And I'd like to thank Betty and the congregation here for also being supporting. This was my first mission, so I didn't have a smick of what to do or anything else. But I got down there, it wasn't too long being pushed to where I wanted to be. I was asked to speak on the electrical and the carpentry part. And electrical, the first thing I wanted to do, there was about 7 or 8 different junction boxes that weren't working inside the parsonage. So the bathroom didn't have any lights in the mirror, didn't have overhead lights. The microwave didn't work. There was another switch in the main room that had 3 switches on it, and it didn't work. So I figured, well, I'd go to the main box and I'd shut off the main switch. Well, there is none. So I applied 3 or 4 more other people to give us a hand. One stand at the junction box because everything is in Spanish. And then as we tested the lights, we had them switched on and off till we got the one we wanted. And the other reason why I had them 3 help me is because after we finished one of the switches, a pastor's daughter, every time she plugged in her hairdryer, the light come on over in another room. So, right? So I had some help. So that had to be rectified. Apparently it was illegal to have it plugged there to begin with. When it come to the carpentry portion of it, we had to put a wall up underneath the sanctuary. The temporary wall was particle board. There was 4 sheets screwed together, tied to a bed. And that's what they had for a wall. So, Luke will verify this, in 24 hours we had a wall up, done, plastered, and the works. The problem was, when we started, I thought, well, there's no problem. You just go to Home Hardware, you get the lumber, and you come back and put it together. Well, the missionary had a little other problem. He said, no, we don't do that. We walked down about a half a mile to the carpenter shop. She went down there, and I'm looking for 2x4s, and they haven't got none. Well, they got to be cut. Well, there's 4 of us, and we needed 16, so we started doing some quick calculations. To carry 4 2x4s, 10 feet long, to carry them half a mile uphill, I think maybe they might do by 2 and 2, maybe 2 and 2.5. That would be a little lighter. So we figured it out that by 2.5, 10 feet long, that'd be great. So up the street we went, carrying 16 2x2.5s. And then the gyprock, yeah, they did bring it. So that was nice. It was a little big to bring. I done the mudding, and I said, when I first started here, I put a sheet in there. I was a jack of all trades and a master of none, which turned out to be just about that. I was doing some mudding, and I had a spatula on this end with all kinds of mud and a trowel on this end. And I was on an aluminum ladder on a concrete tile floor. And I went to move my position a little bit, and the ladder went out, and I landed on my side on the floor, and I never spilled a drop. And the next day, like I said, it took 24 hours to put the wall up, drywall it, put the screws in, mud it, and paint it in 24 hours. And I think during the night, the Lord must have come and patched up all the spots that I missed. There was a little, but it turned out great from a distance. So it was good, and hopefully she'll have me back next year. I'm looking forward to it.
Anyways, I'm Steve. This is Lee. Really, oh yeah, he's Lee. He didn't change. Betty told us to talk a bit about our reflections too. I thought that the main thing is that we were helping the kids. I thought that was the biggest thing. And they're all really wonderful. There's Victoria and Lily and William and Eric, and they're all wonderful. And so that was really, I think, the best thing I think we could have affect their lives. That was, if anything, that was the main thing that we were there for. But also the team was really great, and every morning Bernie would make coffee, and every morning we'd have a great breakfast from Betty, and all the team was really good too. And but I guess we're supposed to talk about the ramp. We had to build, I just wrote this. Okay, the church needed a handicap ramp to get from the main entrance to the sanctuary. So the ramp was made of cement, and there was a cement pad at the top. I remember Lee having to use a plumb line to fix the slope, and all four of us were involved. Jim was doing a lot of the trawl, and me and Bernie were doing a lot of the labor, and Lee was doing, he was ordering us around. Anyway, I mostly did the labor part, but anyways, we had to mix the sand by hand, and we had to go up the street every time with a wheelbarrow and get cement at this place up the street into sand. So that was quite a trip back and forth. And then at the end, a local worker, he put the railings up, and he did a pretty good job. So, but at the end, I just said, God can use whoever he picks as, and he let his work go through us. And that's, I'll let you go now.
He really didn't miss anything. We were going to go there to Mexico to do quite a bit of work, but as it turned out, the pastor didn't get an architect in time to put a roof on the building that was built a few years ago. So we were doing a lot of these little jobs, and one of them was this handicap ramp. The architect did come because it was just a little job. He came and says, okay, the specs are, you build it a 10-to-1 ratio, and the ramp would have wound up on the sidewalk. So quickly he says, oh, well, let's just do it smaller. No big deal. So forget the law, just do it the way you want to do it. So we built the ramp, and Jim was a great, I mean, if you'd ever want to be a plumber again, you can be a bricklayer, okay, for sure, because he did a great job with the bricks. It was a wonderful experience to be there and help any way we can.
Anybody who knows me knows it will be short. Just to add generally about the construction, as anybody who's been there and tried to get material, it's laborious just to get material. There is a Home Depot there, but it takes half an hour to get there, and the traffic is just horrendous. And so you try to make up your material list and go and get it. They do have small little shops where you can get like cement and stone and gravel, but you take your wheelbarrow, and luckily it was uphill with empty wheelbarrow and downhill with the full wheelbarrow. So that was one saving grace. I was sick the day we were mixing cement, and so Lee and Steve did all the mixing, and it was I don't know how they did it, but like Lee said, or somebody said, the air is so thin there, you get tired so quickly. So doing something like that is, and we're not young either, me and Lee and Steve. So when you get a little older, it's harder to do those jobs too. So, anyways, I did a lot of the little repairs in the plumbing, just taps that weren't working, and toilets, and again, just to get parts to fix was hard. And even the last morning I got up and they had this bucket on the roof that was leaking, and we quickly fixed that up. And but it's amazing to go down there and be helpful to the people, and they're so appreciative of anything you can do for them. And so it was just a wonderful experience again. It's my second trip down, and I don't know why I haven't been back sooner, but we have 2 plans. Anyways, hopefully the next time's not so long again. So.
I'd forgotten about the knitting. Betty did a few wonderful Bible studies with the ladies. And after one, the pastor didn't seem to want to put this in, but once we got started, he was snapping pictures like everybody. I went in with little bags made up with needles, knitting needles, and the cotton yarn, so we could make those little dishcloths, that we all make, and I thought that would be easy. But the poor missionary had to interpret. He didn't know. He'd never interpreted knitting before, and it was kind of fun. But it was kind of cute, because I was going around, I got them all started with their 4 stitches, and we got that all going, and then I lost my knitting needle somewhere, and somebody says, here, and I said, oh, there it is, thanks. Then I started realizing they don't match. Well, she figured I could just borrow hers and carry on. They were different sizes. But what I had done was I talked a little bit about how that knitting actually is in the Bible, because we're knit together in our mother's womb. And they did a lot of laughing and stuff about that. But anyway, when I talked to them about the dishcloth, I told them, talked about and likened it to our spiritual growth. You're saved and you start to grow. And then I said, oh my goodness, what happens here? Because this starts to happen. And then I talked a little bit of how God kind of primes us and teaches us so we can be stronger. And at the end, we come out with a diamond shape. And I talked to them about how, we're shaped like diamonds. Look at that. When you're doing your dishes, you're a diamond, but diamonds are usually set in gold. And when he hath refined us, we'll come forth as gold. So I had some big balls of yarn left over. 2 were Christmas ones, and there was another one left. So I told the ladies that I had never gotten to throw a bouquet before, so they could line up. They got them all lined up behind me, and I tossed these balls of yarn, and you should have heard them. They were having so much fun. So I don't know how much washcloths will get together while we're away, but the missionary's wife did get the pattern organized. So I said, well, there you go. Now you can have a little Bible study and knit your dishcloths. But they seemed to have a lot of fun, and off they went with their knitting needles and their yarn. It was a good experience.
Thank you, team. One other place that we had the privilege to visit while in Mexico City was the Evangelical Institute of Mexico. This is a seminary that Pastor Hector graduated from. He went there with his wife Irene as a young married couple, and it was obvious the pride that he held and what great memories he had of that place. And he has just recently returned to the seminary to teach a course there. Again, here is a place that could use teams going in to rebuild and repair this property, which is showing its age. The seminary sits on a beautiful 60-hectare treed property, and it is training up young people for ministry in Mexico City and beyond. My primary responsibility this year was to lead a women's seminar, which I did at 4 different churches. And I shared about how God calls us to love the people in our lives who are maybe a little difficult to love. It's much easier to share from your personal experiences when nobody knows you. And so I shared from mine and some of the struggles that I've had with loving the hard to love in my life. I've had the privilege to pray with several ladies about their own personal struggles. And one lady emotionally shared that she was going home to ask her husband for forgiveness. If it makes a difference in one person's life, then to me it's worth all that it takes to get there, right? Finally, I would like to share what I think was the highlight of our week. And I should have brought a Kleenex with me, but I'll try to be good. About how God met a great financial burden while we were there. And I want to let you know that each one of you has had a part in it. And so I come back to the verse that I shared at the beginning of our presentation. Romans 12, verse 13. Share with God's people who are in need. During the week, several team members came to me and asked, have you heard about the debt that the church is carrying, the back taxes? Well, no, I hadn't. And so on our last Saturday night there, I sat down with Pastor Hector and with Gary and some of the team members, and we got all of the details about how the church came to owe 10 years of back taxes. And I'm sure you're wondering, as we did, how does this happen? Well, there are several reasons. It's a third world country. Churches in Mexico were at one time exempt from paying tax. The city does not even send out tax bills or notices, since it is such an enormous undertaking with a population of over 20 million. There have been several pastors come and go over the past few years. Laws and bylaws have changed several times. Pastor Hector had a sense that there was some property tax due, but he did not know how much, if any, had been paid and by whom and when. And so in September of 2013, the superintendent for the mission came to Hector, and together they went to the government offices, and they discovered that 90,000 pesos, or about 7,000 US dollars, were due. They were stunned. Pastor Hector has carried this heavy burden since last September, and he is a very proud man, and for him to break down was quite the thing to see. He knew he had to tell his congregation, and instead of them being upset, they all started to bring items from home, out of the little they had, to put in a yard sale to help to raise funds. They were committed to paying off their debt. They firmly believed that our God can move mountains. Hector and Gary have gone ahead and paid the first 3 months of taxes for 2014 out of their own pockets. But their concern was that penalties were going to be incurred if at least a portion of this debt was not soon paid. And Hector had received a friendly reminder last December from the government offices. Their church was now on the radar. The possibility of the government coming in and just taking the property was very real. Casa de Paz, which is the name of the church, is a wonderful place, and it's all set up for ministry and outreach and to receive visa teams. It would be a shame if this property were lost. Well, when the team became fully aware of this problem, there was just this mutual consensus that we must do what we could to help. I knew that we would have some funds left over, perhaps enough to cover a quarter of this debt. However, this was Saturday. I still had a few outstanding debts to pay and some incidentals to care for. So I would not be sure of the exact amount that we would have left over until Sunday. After our meeting on that Saturday night, our plan of action was this: to leave what money we had and then to come back home and ask our board to consider creating a fund that church members could donate to if they wished. Well, within 24 hours, my team was making personal pledges and donating pesos and U.S. currency to this yet-to-be-created fund. And on our last Saturday night there, after the service and after our potluck dinner, and after the congregation had gone home, I was overwhelmed and very happy to report to the team, to Gary and Jan, and to Pastor and his family, that the debt was totally covered right there. Amen. In fact, we needed 90,000 pesos, and God always gives us more than we ask for. We had 92,500 pesos. everyone who has supported us financially or prayerfully has had a part in paying off this debt. And I wanted to thank each one of you for your part in what Hector and Gary described as a miracle. See, I should have had a Kleenex. Oh, and a bag, too. I won't need the whole bag. I got through that part of it. I want to leave you with this verse from Isaiah. Isaiah 25, verse 4. This verse is for each of you. For you have been a stronghold to the poor, a stronghold to the needy in his distress, a shelter from the storm and a shade from the heat. Thank you for your generosity, not just to the congregations that supported us, but to this team. And may God bless each one of you. We're now going to close with a song as videotaped by Jim McKee at our last worship service at Casa de Paz. It's entitled Te Doi Gloria. Can you say that with me? Te Doi Gloria. In English, it means I give you glory, and that's what we want to do this morning, is to give God the glory for what he accomplished in Mexico City. So if you look at the back page of your bulletin, you're going to see the words to the chorus, which is Te Doi Gloria, and then it says, A Ti Jesus. Can you say that? A Ti Jesus. So it's Pastor Hector. His worship team consists of his son and his daughter, and then two other gentlemen, and they are singing Te Doi Gloria. I'm going to kind of translate between the lines the verse of the chorus, or the words of the verse, because it's a beautiful worship song. And then please feel free to join in on the chorus. So if that's ready to roll, Luke. I'm going to get a little out of the way here. Oh, how beautiful are you, Lord. It's your words. It's your love. Oh, how glorious are you, Lord. It's your power. It was your cross that saved me and rescued me. Just a moment there set me free. Okay, please join in. Gloria, Gloria, Te Doi Gloria, Gloria, Te Doi Gloria, Gloria, a Ti Jesus. It is your love. Oh, how glorious are you, Lord. It is your power. It was your cross that saved me and rescued me. Just a moment there set me free. Okay. Te Doi Gloria, Gloria. Te Doi Gloria, Gloria. Te Doi Gloria, Gloria. A Ti Jesus. Te Doi Gloria, Gloria. Te Doi Gloria, Gloria. Te Doi. And with the crown of thorns, you became a king forever. And with the crown of thorns, you became a king forever. Please stand as we sing the chorus.
Thank you, Betty, so very much. Please be seated just for one more second. I know it's late, but we want to make an announcement this morning. First, before I make that announcement, I just want to say thank you to the Mexico team. Thank you so much for this great word, and what a miracle story that is. Gary and Jan Allen are dear friends from Asbury days, and I'm sure they're just rejoicing at what is taking place still this length of time after. Let's say thank you to the Visa team. Rachel? I'd like to invite Rachel Keller to come and join me here. In November of last year, the Board of Elders of the Peterborough Free Methodist Church made a decision to attempt to secure a student intern pastor for the summer of 2014. And we went through a number of different job descriptions, a number of different ebbs and flow in the story. And the long and short of it is that on Tuesday night past, 2 weeks ago, the board approved the job description and began the process of moving into the final stages of interviewing and doing the things that are necessary as we go through the different steps within the nominational process. We are pleased to announce to you this morning that Rachel Keller will be our student intern pastor from the 1st of May to the end of August 2014. Rachel is completing her third year at what was Eastern Pentecostal, now Master's College here in Peterborough. And her mom's here today, which is just a great blessing for her to be here as well for this. I also need to add quickly that 75% of the funding for this position has been given to us as a grant from the Lorne Park Foundation, which is the educational endowment fund of the Free Methodist Church in Canada. So we are very grateful, and as a result of that, it really made this possible with the funding that has come from Lorne Park. Welcome. Rachel has already endeared herself to us, and particularly to our kids on Wednesday night Circle of Friends. So just a word, Rachel, from you.
So figuring out what I wanted to do this summer, I had different ideas, and it's just been really neat to see how God has really given me a love for Peterborough, the kids here in Peterborough, and for you all here. And I am really excited and really honored to do ministry with you guys more this summer. So thank you, and I'm excited.
Rachel will be in the children and youth ministry area primarily. She'll be speaking a couple of times, but she'll be primarily in children and youth. One of the major aspects that we've given to her is putting together the youth ministry package, along with Holly, for the fall of 2014. We want to have that ramped up, ready to go, so that we're hit the September 1st running. And so again, welcome, Rachel. Really looking forward to your ministry. Let's stand together and receive the benediction. Lord, this has been an incredible Sunday morning. We feel like we have been in holy places. I can just imagine as a pastor what Pastor Hector was feeling, knowing that this was one insurmountable thing that he just had no idea what was going to be, how this was ever going to be dealt with. Thank you, Lord, for the generosity of the team. Thank you for the relationship that you have given to us with this church in Mexico City. That is not an accident. You have planned that. You have predetermined that that is part of our story as we do mission in this world. Thank you for Betty, for her leadership and for her heart for Mexico City. And Lord, I just pray that you would accept our thanks for this wonderful morning together. And Lord, the icing on the cake is Rachel being able to be part of this team and be part of ministry in this local church in a different way for the summer months. Bless her, Lord, and just help her to have a wonderful experience confirming your call in her life and using her for your glory. And we'll be careful to give you the praise in Jesus' name. Amen.